one of the most interesting and fascinating splits of and just examples of something that seems a lot like cognitive dissonance is the fact that there are so many people, adults, who will scoff at the idea of playing for fun like a child plays, and in a childlike manner, which is completely different from being childish and immature, especially when it comes to using and moving your physical body. And why this is so fascinating is because using and moving your physical body in a childlike way is something that people seem to covet. They long for and seem to almost worship. And there are so many people who are attempting to hold on to their youth and preserve it. But the fundamental issue with the way that many people are doing this is they are attempting to do it in a performative and superficial way. So, on the one hand, as I began saying, they'll scoff at or belittle, for example, someone like me who likes to run, jump, crawl, climb, sprint, squat, roll, play, kick, flip, all around the place. Everywhere I go, I'm doing something that, like how children will be moving around, using their bodies because they can, because they're young and full of life and full of energy, and so they're moving around like that. Well, that's me. I'm full of energy. I'm flexible. I'm mobile. I'm endurant. I have a lot of energy. I'm awake, alert, aware. I'm literally all those things I said: jumping, crawling, flipping, spinning, squatting, climbing, running, skipping, all the time, because my body can do it. And I don't have, all of these. I don't have stiffness, pain, aches, lethargy issues, like none of this tiredness or fogginess, any of these things that people are complaining about. And so I've come to realize and learn by doing some research that I am in a very small percentage of people in my age demographic, being 48 and going to be 49 this year, who can move and do the things that I want to. Because what I hear is that most people, they're just grateful that they can, stand up without their joints hurting or something like that, which is foreign to me because I don't have the experience, so I don't get it. But I've also been someone who this has been a priority in my life, is keeping a high level of what I call hyper athleticism, because I have fun that way. I wasn't doing it because I knew that at this point in my life that it would be some kind of a valuable state of being, that something that people would be pursuing, like this elixir, this fountain of youth that they seem to think that I have. How people comment on, somebody said the other day, like several people commented on my skin and saying that I look very smooth and clean, like I'm well taken care of, and just even people much younger than me say I can't do any of that when they've seen me training or working out, or people constantly coming up to me asking me how old I am, because they can see that when I'm not clean shaven, or like now when I have a little stubble, that there's, I got the gray whiskers popping out everywhere. And so they ask, and I don't look like some young buck, although I do have, somehow I've managed to have really decent looking skin, and I'm really fit, but I wasn't doing anything it's only to impress myself, to have fun. But the point being that people will try to mock and laugh at, or even put it down, like, why are you acting like that? Why are you doing these things? Be more mature. You're acting like you're a kid, like, grow up, or certain things like that. When it's when the really ridiculous part about that is that people would seem to rather, instead of doing what I'm doing, they want to pretend and fake it. And so people are getting injections and surgeries and taking pills and wearing makeup and trying to do certain clothes and trying to wear clothes that look younger, right? So they're attempting to keep up with the latest fashions and use the colloquial terms of that younger people are using, supposedly. Like, I don't care about any of that. That doesn't even matter. Like, so I can speak and say, some goofy thing that people are... What the hell was that? Anyway. So, I just had some notification pop up on my navigation screen. I didn't know what it was. And so, that doesn't matter to me, because wearing the latest gear or some weird fad makeup, or I'm a guy, so makeup's not that big of a deal, although there's a lot of guys wearing makeup, or some fad jewelry or something. I don't know what people... I just look at some of the strange things that people are doing, or just wearing like athletic gear and jerseys. Like, people just walk around looking like they're about to go to the gym, but look like they've never been to the gym. And so all of these kind of things like this don't matter to me. What matters to me is actually being functional. The fact that I can do those things, that I can backflip and cartwheel and climb and run and jump, and then peacefully go to sleep without aches and pains in my body, and I can walk around. Like, I get up in the morning and I just pop out of bed. Like, there's no stiffness, there's no slow, I don't feel any of that stuff. I know people talk about it, and when I used to drink alcohol and stuff like that, there were definitely times when I felt like I didn't want to ever wake up again. So I understand that there are probably things that could contribute to that bogged down, weighed down feeling. But again, what I find fascinating, disturbingly fascinating in some cases, is how the fact that I'm actually able to do those things is often criticized for not acting my age, which is ridiculous. Like, I have the ability to do it. How does that have anything to do with my age? The fact that I'm able to do all of these things physically and have this energy, what does that have anything to do with anything? It's more likely that the accumulation of bad habits over time, not just time itself, right, which that's a compounding effect, has to do with people's lack of ability and the erosion of the kind of aesthetics that they desire, to look young and attractive, mainly because that's what it is. They want to look young and attractive to others. They feel like they're losing their youth, and so they attempt to do all of these things to recover it, but it's really, again, facade. So instead of, asking or really inquiring or wanting to learn about what it is exactly that I've been doing and am doing to maintain this vigor, this vitality, right? Instead it's like, why are you acting like that? I'm not acting like anything. I'm doing what I can do and what I want to do because it feels good and because it's fun. This is how I enjoy life, which, is somewhat related to how a lot of people are one on more, day-to-day levels, how people have these cubicle and 9-to-5 jobs and things like that, which is perfectly fine. We all need income. I work all the time. I work a lot more than a lot of people. I work sometimes 16, 17 hours a day sometimes. And I get up in the morning and I start working, and I work until I feel like going to sleep. And then I get up and do it again. And I have the energy to, and I'm not part of hustle culture. I'm not burning myself out. I'm working as much as I want to and as much as I feel like it, and in the ways that I feel like doing it, for the opportunities that I have before me. And so, but a lot of people are stuck in these things, and then, will be looking at the clock for when is lunchtime and break time going to come, or when the end of the day is going to come. And then the extension of that are people who are waiting until they get to a certain amount of time so they can retire. And why do they want the break time at lunch, or the work day to end, or the weekend to come, or the vacation time to come, or for retirement to come, so that they can then supposedly enjoy their life? And they're always just anticipating and waiting for this time to come when they can enjoy their lives, when what I'm talking about right now is that because of my vitality, because of my vigor, because of my ability to exist in the way that I do, I'm enjoying my life right now. I'm not waiting for it. I'm not, waiting to go sailing or on a cruise. I've been in between 2015 and 2021, I have been on more cruises than I can imagine. Like, how many did I really go on? It was like something every 2 months. So I would say probably I've gone on 60 cruises in that period of time, and mostly in Asia, and were just incredible journeys and just things that I'm not waiting for it. I've gone on like 8-hour bike rides into areas that I had no idea. Like, I would intentionally get lost, and Floor and I would just follow this rule: straight lines and landmarks. Whenever we turned somewhere on the bicycles, and would just ride for hours and hours and hours, or just walk for hours and hours and just explore the world, and just different towns and different cities and just different places, instead of waiting for it and like some time to come. Wait for the vacation time to come, wait for the retirement to come, and I'm just doing it now. Now, I understand that everyone's life is different, and that there very well may be some type of privilege due to the way that I've lived that affords me the ability to do so. Mainly being that I, unfortunately, because Floor passed away right when we decided we were going to start a family, I don't have kids. So I didn't have kids up until that time, and I don't have kids now. And so there's a lot of things that I can do because I don't have that extra time. I do have that extra time that otherwise would be going to being the best father that I could possibly be. And so I also get, a large part of my lifestyle as well has been working as an independent contractor, freelancer, and gig worker, which is the gig worker is the newest term coming up lately. But I've been working, doing contracts and freelance work in film and TV, doing art department, props, and special effects. And I've been an independent contractor working as a personal fitness trainer, martial arts instructor, and also doing security work at various different bars and clubs. And then now, with the advent of all the various different app work, learning which gigs that I want to do through those apps, and and just kind of circulating through those things. And then also now understanding the world of content creation and the attention economy, and taking advantage of and leveraging that, which what I'm sharing right now is part of that whole system of attention, and how that can be turned into personal branding and business, and overall everything that fits under marketing, like advertising, promotion, publicity, public relations, sails, and and they're just, I've just mainly focused on a life where, if something wasn't working out for me, I could just stop. And so I do understand. I know that what I've done is different. And I also understand that it's not for everybody, because, I have family members or other people that I've spoken to, and I talk to them about these things, and it's almost like, there's this story I heard about how when Christopher Columbus sailed to North America, and that some of the indigenous people, they looked up at the water, they couldn't actually see the ships. They saw, some kind of fluctuations or some strange perturbance in the atmosphere, but they couldn't identify, because they had never seen ships and armada like that before. They just weren't used to it, so they had no idea what they were looking at, and just couldn't identify it. And we all have some of these things in our lives that happen where there are these, blind spots that happen where we see certain things, or we're looking at something, we don't see what's right in front of us. I know that happens to me a lot because we're just not used to it. Like, I shop for a lot of people, and there's things that people eat and stuff that I'm looking for that I'm like, these things exist. And so it takes me a lot to look for these things, because it's just not part of my worldview. And I have to continue to expand and open my mind to understand, wow, this is what people are doing. And this touches on, again, a lot about what I'm saying about youthfulness and vitality, vigor, energy, and everything like that. It's a lot has to do with, because I don't do what other people do. Like, Earl Nightingale had a recording that he made in 1956, which was a motivational recording. It's called The Strangest Secret. And he says, if you want to be successful, look at what everybody else is doing and do the exact opposite. I know that Dan Kennedy says something similar. And, it's not, and that's just a really oversimplification of it, but in a lot of ways, that's very true. I don't do what a lot of people do. And then people will criticize it and say that, I'm almost living an ascetic lifestyle, or I'm depriving myself, or I'm starving, or doing all this, but that's not happening. I'm not wasting away. I'm actually super energetic. It's sustained. I have longevity. I've been doing this for years and years and years on end without slowing down. So, and the only time that I have slowed down is when I did participate and do the experiments to see, is it really how I'm living, my nutrition and the things that I'm doing, or is it my genetics, like a lot of people try to claim? And it has very little to do with my genetics, because if you look at my gene pool, you'll see that almost everyone in my family that I know of, they are not performing, acting, thinking, and doing the things that I'm doing. So it's definitely not that. It's epigenetics, if anything. It's my nurture, not the nature, that is a primary part of my heightened existence in this way. So the juxtaposition, I'm going to land this plane here, that I'm talking about, is that so many people covet this idea of youth and vitality, but they do it in a way where it's superficial and not actually functional. They're wanting to put on this performance on the outside to try to attract people, mainly, for friends and romantic partners and sexual hookups and various other things like that, and to impress people on the outside, but actually have no real actual ability. And I think that it's really backwards and mixed up to be operating like that, when it's very simple, although challenging and sometimes difficult, because it takes discipline to actually have a life that's full of energy, vitality, vigor, and just full, immersion in the world, when you internalize the understanding of just, a lot of times, less is more. The idea of fasting, for example. I'm not talking about starving. What I'm talking about is the process of elimination, which is part of my so-called secret of my superpower, is that I've realized that, just like the story I often tell about, that was Andrew Weil, the physician, in his program 8 Weeks to Optimum Health. He said that another physician related the story to him, but basically there's a river, and it was thriving, full of life, plants and animals that were living in, on, and around it. And a paper company set up shop and started dumping their pollutants into the river, killed everything in the river. And then the paper company had to shut down operations, and so there was no more polluting of it. And then everything in, on, and around the river came back to life without any other intervention taking place. And the human body is the same way, and that's simply the principle that I operate by. Is I just avoid and eliminate certain things. I don't avoid eating. I don't avoid food. I don't starve myself. It's not caloric restriction in that sense. I'm restricting the type of additives and toxins and things that go into foods that are unnecessary by eating clean food, which means whole foods, which means I'm looking at, is that a leaf? Is that an animal part that I can clearly identify that's not been caked on and breaded about and has, 20 unnecessary ingredients in it? Then I'm going to consume that. And that's how I live my life. And then I just move a lot. And I just move a lot in ways that are fun for me, that I enjoy. And I just so happen to enjoy dance and martial arts and acrobatics. And fortunately, I found an art form called capoeira that combines all of that. And I've made my own hybrid style called capoeira, Kappaguerra, capoeira. The only war to wage is within. And because it's exactly what it is. If there's anything that I have to fight, it's not anybody externally or anything like that. It's just discipline and focusing on my own self-control and my own internal operation. So that's enough for now. Gotta land this plane, gotta go. I am Hakeem Ali Bocas Alexander.